Hey Mohit,
Hi, sir. Good morning. I hope you're doing well, sir.
doing all right, doing all right. How's it going?
Going well here too, sir. So I'm sorry it had to be at such short notice. It's kind of rushed and spontaneous, but thank you for joining me here, sir, today.
Thank you, Mohit. Absolutely pleasure to be here and to have this conversation with you.
Sir, I'll just get right into the questions, sir. I don't want to take up a lot of your time just in banter or anything, sir.
Absolutely.
So, I to get to these questions, I had to read a lot about you, sir. I hope I am right in whatever I've gathered. My first question is about the career journey, sir. You had transitioned from roles in the US to now currently promoting startups and providing soil, if you will, to the startups in India for their growth. So, what motivated this shift, and how was your experience? How did it shape your approach to technology?
Yeah, I think if I had to give you some context, I was in the US for a decade and then moved to India recently, 4 or 5 years ago, to work on ideas that I had been playing with for a while. Some of them were ideas that I wanted to work with on my own, and some were ideas I was looking for to join other companies who were starting up in that space. So I got a chance to do both. I tried my hand at building products. I worked at Coup and led the ML team there. Coup was an interesting experiment to build a social media, microblogging platform for India and rest of the world. And while I was doing that, I think I saw the great need for talent nurture and talent development. So I also wanted to do something in that space, and I started as a visiting faculty in Ramaya College, where I used to be an undergrad. And through that, I met folks like you and other students who are very diligent, who are interested in technology, who want to do a lot more than what is taught to them in college, right? So a lot of that experience was very, I think, empowering for me because I could see that, with some interactions with students, they're able to go in directions that are very fruitful for them. So all in all, I think it was a great experience, and I'm happy to sort of talk about anything more in more detail specifically.
Okay, sir. I don't think you need to tell me more about it, sir. I think you're doing a great job at whatever you're doing right now, nurturing talent. Uh, I've talked to Suchit as well, sir, a lot. He's told me a lot about you, how open you are to ideas from him or other people associated to you. So, my second question would be. Throughout your career, you have spearheaded AI and machine learning initiatives at major tech companies. How do you approach leading innovative projects within the established organizations? Like, how do you, spearhead AI in like totally novel way, like to first attract funding and to then gather talent and so on. How do you go about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's a very, I think, discussion-heavy kind of question, right? What I mean by that is every situation is different, but there are some frameworks. So when I say every situation is different, I mean every company is unique, right? Because no company is similar to another company, even in the same industry. Like for example, let's take Tata Motors and Mahindra in India, right? They are two
Yes.
car manufacturers, but they operate very differently. They're of different sizes. They have different legacies. They're in different market segments. Their management structures are different. The way they spend on R&D might be different. Of course, they all look similar in the kind of structure that they assume, right? They have management, they have workers, they have manufacturing units. All of that is sort of similar, but that's where the similarity ends. The differences start in when you start going into the depth of how they operate, what are their operating principles, their mission statements, their culture, their need to or desire to innovate, how they test their products, how they allow people to spend time on innovation, how they, so, all of these things are where one company is different from the other, right? Because you can see this outside in any industry. There are some leaders, there are some mid market folks, and there are some companies that don't make it. Now, is it because of talent? Yes, of course, it's because of the people, their skill sets, their experience levels. And that's a people bucket. Let's put that in the people bucket. But there are other processes also, right, that the company adopts. They may adopt the best processes, but they may not follow through. Again, that could come down to people, it could come down to leadership, it could come down to market, so many things. But every company, I think, will assume wants to innovate. I don't think any company deliberately says we will not want to innovate. They may not do it because it's hard or they don't know, they need like outside help. But every, I think, company wants to innovate, right? There is no question of desire. But desire being converted to action is where all the, I think, magic lies, isn't it? So I think
Yes.
very clearly it's the desire of an individual in a company along with having similar individuals across the board with the same desire to innovate and then seeking out how to innovate. I think broadly, it comes down to the culture of the company where everyone sort of wants to move in a single direction and want to do it in an authentic manner. I think as long as there is authenticity for a singular cause, whether it's innovation, cost cutting, optimization, venturing into new territories, international market expansion. We are talking about innovation, but any of these are also difficult to execute. But it becomes easier if the largest part of the company, which is the talent, is moving in the same direction with a similar energy, focus, passion, and hard work. I think efforts count more than anything else, but they become more effective when there is a common desire. So I think that would be the high level framework, a more philosophical answer to your question. But specifically, there are lots of management frameworks to apply if you really want to start making changes in large organizations, right? And those I think every career professional should look into.
Yes, sir, that was well answered, sir. I liked your answer a lot. The third question, sir, startup dynamics. It would be mostly. I know you've mentored a few people here in college to join certain startups. Having built and scaled teams from scratch, such as the machine learning team at Coup, uh, what insights can you share about fostering a startup-like culture within a larger company?
See, Coup was, I think, a startup, and it was easier to set up a culture, any culture actually, go 0 to 1, because you didn't have a large company, I would say, inertia, right? When I say inertia, I don't mean it in a negative way. Like inertia is also just a statement of, hey, this is how we do things, or this is how it's been done here forever. And one cannot discount that just out of the box because if that company is successful, and most companies who have the privilege to say that are successful because they've been in business, they're able to say this kind of thing that, hey, this is how it's done here forever. So there's something in that statement where when that company started, which is today a large company, they did a certain way of execution and they ended up in a good place, right? So somebody coming in new with the idea that, okay, you know what, I want to change things, I want to start up mindset, I want to innovate, starts to pull everything out of the foundation and say we'll start afresh. That doesn't go too far because nobody, I think, will gain support when you come in and say, hey, whatever is being done here is not effective for this next wave of growth or innovation. Let's start afresh. Now, that is interesting, very nice to sort of look at, and sounds very exciting that, okay, we're going to do things new. We're going to think about things from 0 to 1, and we should have place for that. But one has to understand the uniqueness of that situation, that company, its people, its talent pool that has nurtured the company over time, its structures that has built foundation, have become foundations. Without understanding that, there's no innovation, right? Because then it's like activism. You're going against the structure and saying, you know what, you're wrong, I'm right, or this doesn't make sense, this is redundant, this is the new world, I'm the leader of the new world. It becomes a tussle, right? And I rarely think that that works. Maybe in some situations you need to do that, but I don't know if there's a test for it that we can apply every time. But my approach would be, okay, let's enter the organization, let's understand how it works. It may take some time, but you've got to keep it open discussion with management, saying, hey, you brought me in for, let's say, doing AI or building a new product. I think this is the plan. I need to understand the common ground that I can reach with people who are already working in the organization, the leaders, the experienced veterans, and I will execute a plan after understanding those aspects, right? And that's exactly what you do when you go to a 0 to 1 situation. So when I joined Coup, I think I had a privilege of working with great leaders, right? The CTO, the co-founders, who trusted me with that responsibility, right? And they had a very clear idea of what products they need to build. Of course, the execution using ML AI was my job, but they knew exactly what needs to be done. Output was clear. Hey, we need to increase retention on the platform. We need to increase the density of the social graph. We need to identify topics amongst the content people are creating. Very crisp problem statements. Now my job was to execute that. First, understand the problem statement in all its implications, the technical complexity possible, the product integration, working with engineering in the back end, right? The quality assurance, the feedback loops. Now execute on what is the most important. Let's get something off the ground quickly. Because that's what a startup does, right? A startup doesn't have the privilege of time. Large company may. Even that is a wrong statement, because large companies today don't have the privilege of time if they're in consumer companies, right? Like
Yes.
attention of people can quickly change. Of course, enterprises are different, but we didn't have the luxury of time. So if you don't have luxury of time and you need to innovate, then you need to have very high levels of clarity on what needs to be done, and a very clear execution plan on what is the highest priority item for a return on investment in time, because that's the the shortest, sorry, the smallest amount of ingredient, right? In shortest supply is time. So everything has to be prioritized and clear. So if you ask me in a nutshell, the summary I would say is, to do any kind of change, right? You need to be clear and you need to have prioritization. So clarity of goals and prioritization of execution. I think that will take you to a good direction.
Okay, so you talked about AI, leading AI at Coup. In that context, I wanted to ask, with your deep involvement in artificial intelligence, what are the key factors you think that contribute to the success of such startups, AI-based startups?
See, I think if you think about AI based or AI first companies, there are two or three few distinctions. And I think the first distinction would be, is AI the product, right? So, for example, ChatGPT, right? That is a product which can only be possible with AI, with LLMs, with the way we have seen the last couple of years, right? It's a chatbot that is effective to use, is smart, is accurate, etc., etc. It hallucinates. All of those also need to be mentioned, but that's a AI first product. AI is the product, right? The second product would be where AI is necessary and critical. So let's take your social media products, right? Your LinkedIn's and Twitter's, X, Facebook. Instagram. Let's take the social product because we all know about it, right? We all use it. AI there is the distinction between ranked feed, engaging feed, content that is shown to you that is relevant to you, that you click, that you spend time reading, right? The profiles of creators and professionals that are shown to you so that you can follow them who are relevant to you, your interest, your industry, your professional experience, so on and so forth, right? That is also an AI infused output. Right? And without AI, you may not be able. When I say AI, I don't mean just large language models. I mean machine learning,
Yes.
data science, all of these aspects of making something more, I think, intelligent, right? A feed algorithm can be made more intelligent with the purpose of serving your needs better. And that can be tested by seeing your engagement rates and so on and so forth, right? So that's an AI enabled product offering, right? So these two distinctions have to be understood. Now, I think the question becomes how do you build AI first products, right? What happens when you have to go look for building one of these products, right? I think today what has happened is we have general purpose AI technology. So almost any product, and this is a dramatic statement, but there's some kernel of truth in it. Almost any product can be AI enabled, right? Almost any. Now, in that situation, what happens is we start to look for reasons why we need to add AI. So you flip the problem statement, you say, what is wrong with the product right now? For that, you have to start with who are the stakeholders. In any situation, there are some stakeholders, like you and me are chatting right now. We are using StreamYard to record, right? There's a problem statement here. How do you get an effective recording done? Okay. For the most part, we are happy with this product. But we could say, hey, what if I could get speaker notes, transcription? It could highlight some key terms and then create links to it so that people who are reading the transcript could Google search some terms like embedding models or, if I say AI for Bharat, there's a technology we used in AI for Bharat's technologies we used in Coup. It will highlight that and add some snippets of, oh, what is AI for Bharat? Attach links to it. That's a feature. Is it needed? Maybe. Will it solve a problem? Yes. Some people will have that problem. So then we list all the stakeholders. You're the interviewer, I'm the guest. There are people who will listen to this. There are people who will read the show notes. There are people who would want to embed some snippets of our interview in, let's say, their blog or in some social media post, etc., etc. Whole host of stakeholders are now available. Is StreamYard serving all of them? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they don't need to serve the most important two stakeholders, you and me, the interviewer and the host, right? So once we map stakeholders, we also map what their goals are. And are they achieving their most important goals? Then are they achieving their secondary goals? Right? If a product can do that, great. It doesn't matter whether it's doing it with AI or not. The product should be able to do it. Then we see, okay, what is the way the product is achieving this? The technology, right? So the streaming technology that StreamYard is employing, can it be improved? Now, inside of that improvement, there might be some improvements that can be done from first principles. Okay, the protocol that you're using might be different. There's a faster protocol right now. The compression algorithms are better now, etc. So let's make those changes. How will AI help? Maybe the engineer doesn't know about all the compression algorithms available. He can do a deep research. That person can go and do a deep research on audio compression algorithms or streaming technologies, and that it's a good use of AI, right? To research, to R&D, right? Then another use case for AI would be writing code, generating code to test, writing tests, generating new ideas about how to apply compression algorithms, what have you. I'm not an expert in that field, but they could figure things out like that, right? The third thing could be sending information to a large language model while we are chatting, so that we get faster transcription, and then we show it here for a variety of other reasons. It depends on what the feature they want to solve. So AI can be applied in all aspects, right? But you need to first map the stakeholders, their goals. Are the goals being applied? Are the goals being reached effectively? And if not, why? What are the gaps and how to solve it? This allows you to take any situation and see if there's a product offering that is needed, right?
Yes, sir. That was a really good answer about AI, sir. How you foster AI in some startups, how you can start something from scratch. So now let's get to some India-specific topics, sir. There are many challenges in the Indian tech ecosystem. It's not unlike any other tech ecosystem. So, based on your experience, what are some hurdles in the Indian tech ecosystem, and how can you mitigate some of these and successfully drive a startup through one of these ecosystems?
I think it was a one of the top. I forget the name. CEO, founder. I think I could be wrong here, but do I will fact check myself later. But I think I would like to say Aaron Levy from Box, the CEO founder of Box. Right? I think he said that for any I could be wrong, but there's a statement that was made recently that when you engage in action, it generates data, right? And then that data helps you decide what next. So generate data by engaging in action, right? Whatever action, like for example, you have an idea, you can discuss with any expert in the world, policymakers, hey, will this work? There could be these hurdles. Let's say, for example, let's take an example, right? In India, I want to build a chatbot that can converse in any language, right? Just by voice. And I want to make it available for faculty members in engineering colleges in India. So the language requirement actually doesn't make sense, but let's say there are some people who might be, uh, you know, comfortable speaking in any other languages other than English. But the chatbot has to talk about, engineering. It should know the syllabus of different colleges and boards and so on. Let's say we make this chat. This is an idea. Let's say you and I have an idea right now on the call. Okay. The first thing I would say is don't assume that it will get used. So talk to some people who your potential users. These are faculty members. So we can go to Ramaya College and ask some of our faculty members, hey, would you use a chatbot like this? Now there's some nuances here. People will mostly say yes because they want to be nice, they want to be encouraging. They'll say yes, yes, it's a good idea. Does that mean we should go build it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if the cost of building is very low. So today I could, let's say, so-called vibe code a quick prototype. It's possible. Like I could wire together certain API calls, speech to text using Whisper or directly using OpenAI's real-time audio models or what have you, right? I can put it together, ask Claude or Gemini to write some code, and then I can, put it up on a website like Netlify, and then go to college faculty members again who said yes, they would like to use it, and show them this demo, right? And they're like, yeah, this is great. I can ask some questions, I can get some answers. All right, could you like give me a printout, or could you like create a lesson plan? Okay, good features. Go build it again. At some point, you're like, okay, I have something that I think five, six faculty members are using. It's an India problem. Actually, it's a world problem. Faculty members across the world could use this. Engineering college faculty members, etc. Let me now try to make it available to more people. That's when you start figuring out, okay, how do I reach more people? I need to do marketing. Maybe I need to go to college. I need to hire people who could do that, other students. I could do some ads online. I could send letters or, like physical material to colleges. I could create lead magnets. There's a whole host of things you could do for marketing, right? And then you need data, you need infrastructure cost if you're running these models, API cost, etc. So I need funding, maybe, maybe not. It's not that expensive to try, etc. Right? Now that we still haven't reached any hurdles. These are all questions that we have to answer and keep moving. In a place like Bangalore, a place like India, there are tons of VC ecosystems, Antlers of the world, Sequoia Search, early stage incubators, angel investors. Like if there's an ecosystem that enables technologists to experiment and try, of course, it's not as vibrant and risk appetite friendly as Bay Area, but it's after Bay Area and China, maybe India, Bangalore specifically is on the number three. And I think it's by data also we attract the amount of investments we attract is at number three or fourth place across the world, right? So that's a very unique situation to be in. So in our discussion till now, step by step, if we were taking that idea, we have not encountered anyone providing any hurdles. The only hurdle can be that the idea doesn't have any legs, or the people you are talking to don't want to use it. Maybe you're not talking to the right people. Maybe that's not the market you should be in. Maybe you are not executing effectively, you're not marketing effectively, etc., etc., etc. But we have not met any hurdles that we cannot surmount, right? There's no hurdle yet. There's no authority coming and saying, "Hey, stop! You can't do this." Right? When will that happen? I think that happens at a certain scale, at a certain level, and maybe it's a good problem to have if you're like not doing something wrong. You don't want somebody to come and say, "Hey, you're doing something wrong." But if you're coming in, let's say, disrupting an industry, you may have banks coming and saying, "Hey, Paytms of the world are taking away, online transactions, which used to be our domain, right? Right? I think that's not a Indian like government regulator coming and stopping anybody, right? That's just industry competition, right? And that probably is a good thing for a company or a startup because that means that they've reached a certain scale where the incumbents are coming after them or trying to lobby the government to go after them, right? So it's almost like you're as big as a bank now, which is like what Paytm and all of these companies have become, right? But I think till they reached that space, they were not stopped by anyone. They probably were stopped by their own, shortcomings in execution, in marketing, in acquiring customers, in giving enough of those boxes to the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of shops where you make a payment and it tells you an audio what's going on. They may have found issues of finding components for it, manufacturing delays. Those would have, stopped, not stopped them, slowed them down. But till they reached a certain scale where they had some RBI conversations which were difficult conversations to have, etc., etc. Nothing stopped them. So I would say whether it's India or whether it's any other vibrant economy, the question is, okay, does my product actually solve a problem? Will there be enough people? How can I test it out cheaply, quickly? Where can I get a good sense of the data, right? Because I said engage in action, generate data, and then be able to understand that data, what it's telling you, and move in the right direction. I think I would focus on those things. I don't think there are any hurdles as such in any good market, and I think India is one of the good markets that we have the privilege of being a part of.
Thank you for that answer, sir. Now, I would want to focus a little bit more on the role of educational institutions in India, especially in fostering startups or entrepreneurs. So, based on your experience, how can Indian colleges and universities prepare students to drive innovation and contribute effectively to tech in India?
See, I think we have to think of these things more in a long-term perspective, right? So, Indian universities, right? If you ask me, I'm a product of an Indian university, Ramaya College, right? MS Ramaya. Then you have the NITs, you have IITs, you have private colleges now, like Asokas and Flames of the world. And you've always had our, like Ramaya, RV, BMS, all these colleges in the most, big cities. You have these top colleges, etc. Bombay, Pune. There's a large number of great colleges across, what we say, IITs, NITs, and private colleges, government colleges, etc. Now, what has happened in the economy is that we have seen a big increase in fortunes for tech industry, right? IT services and all of that, right? And typically, that has been that may not have required as much innovation as let's say today's industry expects in terms of AI, you know, uh, and so on, other allied branches like biotech and so on, right? Where breakthroughs actually change the alter fortunes of individuals, industries, countries, right? That breakthrough cannot be just had by the current system. The current system is still very great to feed our industries that are growing, right? We have large industries where we need managers, we need entry level professionals, we need vocational experts, right? Experts who can do more work with their hands and like plumbing and electricians and so on. And colleges will support that, right? There'll be new vocational training institutes that will come up. I think what will happen is at some point, because of AI, right, colleges will see that entry level engineers may not be effective, may not get placed, right? And it may start with CS because you see, coding is one of the highest ROI task that AIs are performing, right? Generating code. So again, these are all statements that I don't know how it will pan out, but at least the trends look in that direction where entry level developers may not see a lot of employment opportunities, right? When I say entry level, I don't mean entry level because they just graduated. I mean entry level in terms of the skill set. One could still take those 4 or 5 years of time in an industry, in a college, and train themselves to be more of an architect, more experts that are well versed with technology. So what I mean by that is, let's say in a 4 year course, you are not being taught everything in CS. Like typically, you're taught compiler design, you're taught hardware, you're taught about software, you're taught about so many things. It's broad based, and it's good that it's broad based, right? Because then you can specialize, you can become an expert in an area by either further studying or then focusing in the job. But with AI doing so much, right? I think one would probably take 4 years to be focused on more of the architecture of systems. Go and look at, become expert on, let's say, building, let's say news ranking systems, or building URL shortening systems, or building all the modern systems that we use, right? And becoming experts in the understanding of that system, so that when you have an AI, coding assistant, or eventually when you have a software engineer one, OpenAI released Codex recently, SWE1, software engineer one, right? They're almost like a software engineer, right? They can take your code base, take a task from you, and push commits which you can review and accept, right? With tests and so on. That's typically what an entry level engineer does today, right? But if you're also going to compete with that Codex one, it's going to be hard. But where can you find your place as an individual? You can find your place by understanding a code base, understanding architectures, understanding design patterns, understanding actually how these modern systems are being built, what are the components, how do they come together, and then also giving very clear and crisp guidelines and tasks to AI agents who could do the work for you, right? Which then means that all these colleges are not going to think about innovation. They have to think about how you teach students to use AI. Today, where the colleges are suffering is, hey, AI is being used by our students to solve assignments. They're using it to solve their homework, and we don't like that. I think we have to flip that switch and say, you know what? AI is this technology that has come into our world suddenly. It's almost like overnight we got ChatGPT, right? For most of us, like many of us were using GPT-2 and those APIs in the playground in OpenAI, but the chat product, the ChatGPT 3.5 onwards, was like something that was dropped into the world overnight, and we're still dealing with the implications of it. And that technology continues to progress by leaps and bounds. So the catch up isn't to, hey, teach students about how LLMs are built, how LLMs are developed. That is important, and only a few people, I think, will need to know that knowledge. It's not that nobody should know it. We should all learn how to do that to some extent. There should be experts in that, so that we can tomorrow build our own LLMs in India, have sovereign control of great foundation models. But for the most part, across colleges, our students have to be equipped to use AI, right? Use AI to solve real problems. Like you and I sitting here today can fire up a chat GPT, go to O3, and we can literally start figuring out solutions to any problem that we may be dealing with day to day, right? Either as part of your academic studies, either me as part of my job, etc. But I would like to hazard an opinion or hazard a guess that we may still be in the minority, single digit percentage in our cohorts, right? And that is the worrying part. I think innovation doesn't come from capital, which is still needed. Risk appetite, providing capital to ideas is still needed. But it also comes with how to think about solving problems and giving ambition to people to say, look, even if you don't have the expertise, but you have the approach, you have the, let's say diligence, you have the hard work capacity to see things through. You now have experts like AI systems that can help you solve most problems. So pick an area where you may have some advantage, right? Maybe your parents are doctors. Maybe in your family there's a manufacturing, business. Maybe around you there are schools. Maybe where you live there are a lot of machine shops. I don't know. Everyone has a unique situation, and every situation has some gaps that can be solved. Now, can you find a gap? Like I said, stakeholder goals, gaps. Give it to ChatGPT. Try all the versions: the O1, the free one, the O3 that is paid $20 a month, Gemini, Claude, and see what it's saying. And have those conversations with those people because they may never probably use ChatGPT to solve their problem. May not. But you can go and become their expert consultant. That you can help them solve problems and so on. That's where innovation will come, and that's specific to India because we need innovation on the ground. We are doing, many of us in tech, we're innovating, working in big tech companies. We innovate at the scale of a Google or a Facebook or a LinkedIn or a Netflix, etc. Right? Indians are sitting here and doing it. Indians are, immigrating and doing it across the world. But what about that level of innovation and thinking being applied to people who may never have a technologist coming and serving them? But today, they themselves could use ChatGPT. But till that time happens, right? Till they also become savvy, like the shopkeeper, the manufacturer, the small machine shop may not need to. I'm not saying they all need to, but who knows, right? Who knows that you go after this call, go outside, go to the machine shop owner who is running his lathe machine and ask him, sir, what kind of problems do you have? Oh, I don't remember how much inventory I have logged. I don't, when I need a part, I don't find it in my workshop because it runs out. So, okay, I'll build you a system. You just take pictures of what you get. You don't need to do any typing. Just take pictures of what you get and upload to this app. And every time you use something, just take another picture and say, I've used this. Done. Today, I think we are in a position where you could wipe code a simple app that does 80% of the work, where you can take images and identify number of pipes, then take another image that says, okay, this one pipe is gone, so you can do 5 out of 1. You say 4 is the final inventory. You can basically build a inventory tracking system with just image inputs, right? Possible. Now, whether it can be done or not, again, that's the whole question, right? Go build a prototype, check it out, blah blah blah. So I think to give you a short answer summary, colleges have a very unique position. Colleges are embedded in the real world, in across the country, right? In almost every kind of locality, where there are different industries around, right? And they can tell students, look, go around, go outside and try to figure out solutions. And that is where innovation happens across the country, right? And I think that's their goal, not as providers of capital or great ideas. It's by saying, you know what, it's like, the Stanford model. Stanford would have people break out of college, right? Professors and students build in companies in Silicon Valley and solve problems, right? These problems are solved for other companies who were also based there. Now, don't you think we could do this across the country with so many colleges? IIT Madras does it. They did it with Ather recently. They incubated Ather, the electric bike company, right? We could all do this, right? Every college can do this in some small way to get started.
That was a really nice answer about what we could do. What could happen if education institutions were better at whatever they're doing? So this is just one last question. It can be off the record, on the record. It's up to you. Uh, let's say you had a blank check and zero bureaucracy, no bureaucratic hurdles, and you had a blank check, no shortage of capital. What rule-breaking idea or what kind of bold idea would you pursue? Like any ideas you have, or you're working on currently, or something that requires zero bureaucracy and like a blank check.
See, I think I would answer that in a different way, right? I don't think bureaucracy or capital has limited man's aspirations. Unless you want to build a rocket to compete with Tesla or NASA, yeah. When that's it's a good thing to do, right? Probably for national interest, security, national security interest and so on, right? But let's say for the most part, you have SpaceX that does this. You can piggyback on them, give them your satellites to launch, etc. Right? Maybe you need money to build better satellites because nobody's making satellites for you for specific purposes. For general purposes, yes, but if you want it for defense, then you have to build it yourself, right? So that question can be asked about countries, about nation states, and individuals, and so on. I'll answer it from an individual point of view, right? I'm not a startup. I'm not a nation state. I don't need capital. They do, but I don't, right? At least for these ideas. So the idea that I think I am really passionate about is that in our country, in across the world actually, children are the asset that we should nurture because they are the future. Like, literally, I have kids, so I see this literally. Before it was more of a philosophical question, right? But now I know that it's literally the case, right? And when you have this resource pool that will go into the future and create the world that you will live in when you are no longer actively working, when you're retired, right? How would you want to educate them on what aspects, right? Imagine, when I'm out of the working age, right, 60, later than that, those who are children, will be the folks who will run the world, right? They will be policymakers, they will be running companies, they will be providing new services, products, and so on. What should their educational foundations be, right? So I think, of course, right moral principles, what is good and bad, I think those have to be taken care of. But science and math, I think, is many times ignored, right? It's not ignored in the sense we don't teach it. We teach it in India. I think we teach it across the spectrum. We have great curricula for these kinds of subjects, right? And our, ICSE, CBSE boards are very competitive, etc. But the amount of time that is given, the pedagogy, right, which is how do you teach examples, metaphors, making these concepts natively understood by children, finding the right words for it, finding the right, triggers to teach it with examples and real world scenarios. That's still lacking, right? We've seen examples of people learning coding through the White Hat Junior and all sorts of these programs that teach kids coding. But you can see today, you just need AI, right? So we could teach kids how to use AI. But a lot of the foundational work that needs to be done, right, is in primary education for children. And I would pick science and math because science and math can be contextualized to the real world, right? The world around you. You can describe what photosynthesis is in such a way that a kid will sit with a leaf and be mesmerized. Oh my God, there's this happening in this leaf. This is the work that is happening inside this green leaf. Oh my God, right? That sense of wonder, I think today only AI can provide at scale. Why? Because most people don't have that sense of wonder. We have become jaded, have become sort of taken for granted, all that crazy, magic around us, right? And nowadays, I think uh, it's cringe to say things like this. Oh, that a tree is magic. Sounds cringe. Like, what? A tree is magical? What are you saying? It's everywhere, man. Trees are falling on my car. What are you talking about? Like, why is it magical? It is because if you study a tree, right, all its aspects, I think you could give up your entire life and still fall short of understanding what a tree is, right? In all its dimensions, in all its aspects, in all its history, it's all its extensive variety and its purpose and what it can do for human being, what it does for the planet, environment, this, that, so much, right? There's so much. And I feel like we're denied all of this to ourselves, to our children, to the world around us, right? But you sit with a chatbot, you sit with ChatGPT, let's say you take the advanced voice mode. I do this a lot. I just take up a topic and I start learning about it, right? I ask my children to do it. But the moment they have an entity that they can talk to, I have seen they start playing. They start making noises, making some, saying weird things to see what will that entity say, right? It's a toy for them, right? Because my kids are probably much younger, but as they grow, right, they will literally have somebody who they can speak with, who can answer questions patiently, and these things will get better. There'll be emotion in that voice. There'll be excitement in certain times, right? And you can make this available across, like, at scale. It's not even like metered by any constraints, right? So that's the problem I will solve, right? You said no bureaucracy. I don't think there's bureaucracy. You're going to stop me here. No need of like cost. Cost is not an issue, right? Because I can just do this, right? I can tell people to use it. Maybe we can subsidize at the government level, ChatGPT Advanced or a paid version, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, but I think children being taught that the world around them, the scientific and the mathematical world around them, is a sense of wonder. To derive wonder from that, I think that would be my overarching goal.
So I'm finished there, sir. But I liked your replies a lot. Especially on such a short notice, I think you were very good at answering these. I was engaged throughout this session. I hope I was a good host, sir. It's the first time I'm doing this, so please tell me if there was any problem. I hope you have a good day, sir. If you have anything else to say to whoever will watch this, I'd like to hear it, sir.
Yeah, I think I'm assuming that the audience may be students, at least for the most part, and other folks in that cohort. I think at this point in history, I think in the world, technology has developed to an extent where you have general purpose technology. It's unprecedented. Of course, many of you are going to be AI first, right? AI natives. So it's easy to take things for granted. But you have a responsibility, I feel. Of course, it's a privilege and a responsibility to use this technology to create abundance and value for people who would otherwise never be served by technology, right? For example, if today you want to do something, right, open up ChatGPT, maybe sit with it to learn how to use it a few minutes, and then go and talk to your parents, go and talk to your relatives, go and talk to your friends who you think are not going to use it, and ask them, hey, is there something you need done, right? Is there a question you have that I can answer? Is there a workflow gap that you see in your life? Is there a process improvement that you'd like? Just what are some items that you want optimized? Let's see if AI can help us. And go do that, right? It's not going to go away. I think people keep saying, hey, AI is going to take jobs. Yeah, it will take some jobs. It will create new opportunities. But I think we cannot ignore the fact that this is a valuable technology. It's general purpose. It can apply utility across the board, across industries, and it's up to us to figure out how to use it, right? So I would say go do that today and then play with AI, ChatGPT, and see where it takes you.
Thanks a lot, sir. It was great to have you here. It was a privilege to interview you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate being called onto your platform, and look forward to more such conversations with you in the future. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, Wait, when did
You
you
took a
guys start?
screenshot, right? I
No,
started at 10. Able to hear me?
yeah, yeah. Am I audible?
I started at like 10:15, 10:20.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, now it's 11:08. So I
So
took
you
a
have
screenshot and all. Yeah, what?
you have the recording, right?
Yeah, I have the recording.
Okay, we can take the screenshot from there. Maybe. I hope she doesn't ask for the video. I'll say I don't have the video.
Ah, no, no, no. No, no, she won't ask for the video. Screenshot is fine.
Cool, cool.